And I said, I want to be an actor. And she said, why? And I said, because I want to change the world. And people listen to actors. And at 5 years old, I was watching Carol Burnett.
Yes.
All of my friends were, watching cartoons and things, and I always was such a creative. So from a very young age, I can remember wanting to be an actor. I would write, I would illustrate, and back when we had tape recorders, I would line up all my stuffed animals, and I would interview them, and I did my own shows.
Welcome to Innovate or Evaporate, the podcast where we explore the relentless pace of change and the innovators who drive it. Each episode, we dive deep into the world of cutting-edge ideas, breakthrough technologies, and the fearless pioneers who are pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Today, we're joined by Lisa Varga, actress, producer, writer, and CEO who spent decades building a career at the intersection of storytelling and entrepreneurship. From sketch comedy inspiration as a kid in South Bend, to landing roles in Hollywood and launching her own production company, Lisa shares the raw realities of showbiz, the creative economy, and what it takes to fund your vision in a rapidly shifting landscape. If you're ready for a conversation about creativity, courage, and carving your own path, stay tuned, because it's Innovate or Evaporate.
Welcome back to Innovate or Evaporate, where we explore the relentless pace of change and the innovators who drive it. I'm your host, Toph Day. We have a Lisa Varga, a multi-talented force who has found success in front of and behind the camera. From Hollywood actress to author and CEO, Lisa's journey is a masterclass in adapting and building your own lane.
It.
Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we're at Rally.
Yep.
We're hanging out. We're meeting people, having fun, creative curiosity. And one thing that we've been thinking about at Rally is a creative economy that I'm like personally so just interested and fascinated by. So today I just look forward to talking about your story. And I want to go, so you're doing all this awesome, interesting stuff. Your relationships and the people that you work with are amazing. I want to go back and find out who Lisa is. Like, how did you get to where you are today? And let's start up, like, where you grew up and what you dreamed about, like, when you were younger. Like, As a kid, like, junior high, high school, did you know you wanted to go to Hollywood?
I did. I'm going to take you back to when I was about 5 years old. First of all, born and raised in South Bend, Indiana.
Yep.
So, small town girl. And I remember my mom asking me one day, we were sitting at the table, and she said, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be an actor. And she said, why? And I said, because I want to change the world. And people listen to actors. And at 5 years old, I was watching Carol Burnett.
Yes.
All of my friends were, watching cartoons and things. And I always was such a creative. So from a very young age, I can remember wanting to be an actor. I would write. I would illustrate. And back when we had tape recorders, I would line up all my stuffed animals, and I would interview them, and I did my own shows. So I technically...
Is that the little thing that's like the rectangle and you push the buttons?
Yes. For your younger audience, they will not know. You'll have to have them look up what is a tape recorder, and they'll say, what? Mixtapes came from
awesome.
This. But, I was a podcast before a podcast was a podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm interviewing my stuffed
before
animals.
podcast was cool.
Yeah. So I was ahead of my time back then.
I love it.
So always creative, always artistic, always a storyteller, and really always wanted to make a difference in the world.
What drew you to Carol Burnett? Was it the comedy? Was it the... Or did you see storytelling in her show? Like
I was just fascinated by her.
Yeah.
And at 5 years old, I don't know who Carol Burnett is. I think I just loved that sketch comedy. And everything was so different, and it was funny, and they would sing, they would dance, they would laugh, and I also loved Saturday Night Live, back in the day when it was good.
Yes.
And so I just always gravitated towards these sketch kind of shows where it was live performances and something different and something unique. Who knew she was going to be a legend?
Right. So then... Were there things that you tried to do in school that you tried to gravitate toward? Like, do you play an instrument?
I do
or
not.
Sing?
Sang in choir, church choir.
Yep.
Instruments. I mean, I would play a little on the piano, but nothing, that I know.
So in school plays and things, were you all over that?
Yes, I was always in school plays, and all through high school I was in drama class. Never did any of the theatrical productions, but I was in drama classes. Yeah. So always learning about it. And then, shortly after, I was in my early 20s when I moved to Hollywood, and I was living my dream.
So, leap of faith? Did you jump off the cliff and move into Hollywood?
I did.
Did you have a gig or a part-time job lined up? You're like, I'm just going.
Just up and left. And I was that child, the wild one, middle child syndrome. And, because I had big dreams and I knew what I wanted to do, I actually stopped first in Dallas, Texas. Friends of mine were getting married, and I was in their wedding. And I started doing commercials and got into print and modeling.
Yep.
And from there, it just kind of took off, and I had a job offered to me in L.A. as a nanny for a woman who was in production. And she said, hey, I can get you on all the movie sets. Just come be my nanny, and I'll introduce you to the whole movie world.
How did you find her?
I was doing a calendar shoot, a swimsuit calendar. We were the Wild West modeling team in Dallas, Texas. Yeah, so we're in bathing suits on, bales of hay in cowboy boots. That's how I met her. She was the makeup artist.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that was a random encounter, or?
Random encounter. We were just there having fun, and she had a 7-year-old son that came with her that day. And while all the girls are out modeling, I'm out playing football because I love football. That's a whole other story. We'll talk about
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame football. Grew up playing powder puff football for high school. I was the quarterback.
Awesome.
So always played sports my whole entire life.
Yep.
And so this little kid just wanted to play, and we're out throwing a football around, and she looked out the window and said, hey, I think I found my nanny, and offered me a job because she had a movie she was going to work on, and said, I don't have a nanny. And that it just happened.
That is insane. What are the chances of that, right?
And then I lived out in LA for about 15 years.
15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always thought of acting is like entrepreneurship, right? I mean,
very much.
Auditions and things, right? So it's very competitive.
Very.
You have to go after a bunch of things. You get lots of no's to get that yes. There's a breakthrough. So you get to LA. Mm-hmm. You're doing the nanny thing. You're going to these movie sets.
Yep.
What kind of self-doubt or fear did you experience when you first went on those movie sets that you had to circumvent or power through? Or you're like, I own this thing out of the gate?
No, I was terrified. But to go backwards a little bit, in South Bend, they filmed the movie Rudy there.
Yes.
Everybody knows Rudy.
Right.
So I was an extra. And that was my first big film that I ever got involved in. And I saw Hollywood right in my own backyard.
Yes.
And I had so many cool experiences just meeting the actors and all of the people involved. And that's when I really fell in love.
Did you work on set or extra?
Yeah, I was an extra.
Yeah.
You could see, I think there's a scene where you see the back of my head and I'm walking down. I could point myself out, but, no one would know. That was it for me. And the bug bit me. I knew it was what I wanted to do, but that brought it to life for me. So now I'm in Hollywood, living my dream, and I got really lucky. In the beginning, I got an agent right away, started booking soap operas, commercials, print jobs. I did really well in the beginning, and I was up for a soap opera, and I remember getting to the callback, and it was reading for the producers, and we're in this room, and it's so intimidating. It was all of NBC, the studio heads and the producers. Yeah. And I stressed out so bad the night before because I knew this was my big break that I blew a blood vessel in my eye.
Oh, dear. So,
the stress was just, am I going to remember my lines? Can I do this? I'm panicking. I'm freaking out. I have this big red eye the next time I go. So I did not book that job. But even to this day, I still get nervous.
Yep.
There's just something about the pressure of going into that room and, just having to perform for someone. But there was a time in my life where I really felt like I was going to classes, doing the work, and I was really doing well. And there was a show called Homeland.
Yes, I remember Homeland, yeah.
And I had an opportunity to go read for it and nailed it, got what was supposed to be a recurring role. And as we're filming, my brother at the time had cancer, and he was getting ready to have a stem cell transplant. So I got the call while I'm filming, and I said, well, I got to go. I talked to the producer, and we did not know this was going to be a hit show. So we're in season 1, episode 4, and they're like, you just go be with your family. We'll rearrange everything later.
Right.
Come to find out, it's a hit show.
Yeah.
Won Emmys, and so I always say to my brother, he's doing great today. That was my big break, so you better live a long time because I gave that up for you.
Right.
But yeah, other really great auditions that I had too. There was one called Game Time, and this was a football movie. It was like Friday Night Lights.
Yep.
And it was in North Carolina, and I went to audition, and my agent had sent me the wrong sides.
Oh, geez.
So I go in to the room, and directors there, producers there, and we start reading, and it is not anything what they're reading back and forth with me. And they said, what script do you have? And I had the wrong script. So what they did is they said, here's your sides. Go out, take your time. Whenever you're ready, let us know. So again, I'm panicking. How am I going to memorize this? I put so much pressure. And I remember just thinking, Lisa, this is your life. You know football. You know everything about, being the wife of a football coach. And I went back into the room, and we just started to have this discussion. And they asked me about, football and Notre Dame. And I became that character. I was that character. And later they told me that's why I booked that job. He said, you walked in, you were her. There was nothing you could have said that would have been wrong.
That is amazing.
So I learned really quickly, it's not about being perfect. It's not about getting the lines right. When you walk through that door, they truly want to see you are that character, and they're cheering for you to be that person and get that job. So I got lucky on a couple of them, but yeah, I still get nervous.
So I've always wondered about that with actors and the whole line memorization thing. And sometimes those speaking parts are pretty long.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you're going for an audition, sometimes you don't have much advance. Well, in that situation, it was on the spot.
Yeah.
But, like, how much advance notice do you have? And so you are acting that part. You don't have the script. You can't read it. You're doing it from memory.
Yeah, well, you can hold the script in your hand. And by the way, this was back when we would go in for auditions. Now everything's online.
So you audition like on Zoom?
Oh, yeah. It's a whole other world. I don't like it at all. I used to love going in and sitting with a casting director.
It seems really hard to audition remotely.
It's terrible. I hate it. That's why I have my own production company now, and I just put myself in my movies, and I don't have to audition. So I made it real easy. But yeah, back in the day, it's like a muscle. The more acting classes you take, the more auditions you go on, the easier it gets. And it wasn't that hard for me. And just you have to keep practicing, and you have to stay in acting classes. People, they'll go to Hollywood, or they'll think, I want to be an actor, and they just show up. And you can't do that. Right. You have to take the classes. You have to do the work. You have to just be fully committed.
What are the biggest things that they focus on in acting classes?
Just being present, listening, believe it or not, more than anything. Like the conversation you and I are having. Right. Someone's talking, someone's listening. A lot of times actors would just remember the lines and memorize it, and they know this line comes after that one. That's the worst thing you can do. The thing about acting is you shouldn't be acting, you should be. And you should listen, because if I'm listening to what you're saying, I'll be able to react organically, genuinely, and it comes off very authentic. You could tell the people that are just saying a line and that are really in.
Oh my gosh. So now I understand. I literally, until you said that, when you watch actors, and sometimes it feels awkward and painful, it's because some are truly like, they are that character, and others are reciting lines in essence.
They're in their head. And all it is a page to them, and your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn. The ones that are the real good actors, you're going to know because they're so fully in, or they have these crying scenes, and they're emotional, and it's not easy to do. So to those actors, I give so much credit, the ones that can just be fully present and committed, and they are just in that scene. They're living that moment. And those are the brilliant scenes that we see.
And some characters, they spend months getting in character, right?
Absolutely. And I love how you bring that up, because they do get into character. Sometimes you get method actors, and they will become that. They will breathe it. They will, look the part, act the part, and they transform into another person. It's really bizarre.
So let's transition into the business part. I just find film, documentaries, I don't know all the right terms in the lingo in your industry, so I'm just going to call it the creative economy. And I find this opportunity with all the technology that's come out in the last, decade, but in the last 1, 2, 3 years especially, it just feels like there's the it's all difficult work, but having these tools at your fingertips to be able to much more economically go after various projects. So you produce, you've acted, you produce. So talk about that transition, because I want to get all the way into investing, right? That whole component. So let's start with your transition of when you started to move to the other side of the camera, or now you kind of sit on both sides of the camera.
Yeah.
Talk about that, that transition. When did you get fascinated by the other side? And I want to dip my toe over there.
So it honestly came when my brother got sick with cancer, and this was in 2009. So prior to that, I was modeling, I was acting, I was hosting. Everything was in front of the camera for me.
Yep.
And when I came home to South Bend, Indiana, from living the life I lived in Hollywood for 15 years. Then I lived in Miami for 7 years, and then I lived in New York. And through that whole time, I was always in front of the camera. And so it was a huge transition for me to say, what do I do now? Because there's no acting in South Bend, Indiana.
Right.
We don't have acting jobs. They don't understand what it is. So I said, well, I'm just going to start my own production company. So I started writing my own material, producing my own material, and fundraising, which is the absolute hardest part to do. Because you, as the business, you have to be able to pitch and present your idea and find an investor for that project. And that is hard to do in a small town where people don't understand the film industry. They want to see numbers. Like you have investors. Your investments and your investors are very different than a film investor. The film investors are such high risk. You don't know if you're going to make your money back or not.
Right.
And the percentages are very different. So your world and my world are night and day. There are people that love to invest in film, or you have to find somebody that's passionate about a particular project that you're doing, and those are the people that you go to. But it is very challenging. I would rather raise money for your industry than mine.
So as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I probably am wrong, but the film industries, like movie theaters, like the relationship with a movie theater, drastically, I think, has changed. I'm not sure if I know the details on how that changed. Like, if you go to a movie today, as I understand, there's no money to be made on the movie. They're making it all on the popcorn. The distribution model, with the onset of just so much content with Netflix and just all the various channels, the streaming channels. What's that transition over the last 10 years or 20 years of distribution, how the model works?
Great question. It has changed drastically. I don't even know what business we're in anymore.
That's interesting.
It is night and day with all of the streaming platforms. First of all, anyone can be an actor, anyone can be a producer, anyone can be a director. Everyone's making their own films, their own projects, and they're getting them up, even if it's a YouTube or TikTok. Yeah. TikTok killed all of us. Anybody that's in entertainment. I mean, you could be the next TikTok sensation or, Instagram star or YouTube star. Honestly, the younger generation right now doesn't say, hey, I want to be a movie star. They say, I want to be an influencer.
Oh, that's interesting.
The whole world is about influencers. Now, don't get me wrong. There are huge blockbuster movies, and those do really well in the box office, but they are also streaming or pay TV. So it's a very different business model than 10 years ago. Yeah. And there's so much competition right now. Anybody can put a film up, well, not anybody. On YouTube and on your social media channels, you can put garbage up there. And it may hit, you just never know. But there is a particular business model for if you want to get it into theaters and if you want to do the streaming platforms like Netflix, Apple, Amazon, any of those. And it's a little bit more difficult to get into those streaming platforms, but very different than 10 years ago or when I was back in the film industry in LA. It's not even the same game anymore.
So do those, so let's say, well, even like History Channel, if we go to cable and think of like History or somebody, they're probably different than Netflix. But do they want to buy for lump sum
Yes.
the content?
Mm-hmm. But it's not much.
Right.
Actually, Ashton.
Right. That's what I was thinking about when I was asking that question. I'm just curious.
It wasn't much at all.
Right. And so then, where did, like, just like music has changed too, that kind of changed a while back.
Mm-hmm.
So then how do the actors, is there still the concept of like a royalty on movies?
Yeah. That is still and always will be because of the Screen Actors Guild union.
Okay.
So you will make X amount of dollars per day or whatever you negotiate or your agent negotiates for you, but they get points on the back end. So every point is worth, $1.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these actors will say, I don't care what you pay me up front. If they know it's a big hit blockbuster movie and it's going to make hundreds of millions of dollars, they're going to say, give me 20 points on the back end.
Right.
That's 20% of the movie. So each point is a percentage point.
Yep.
So they would much rather take a chance on that than get a big paycheck in the beginning. Now, some of them are getting both. The big superstars are getting, millions and millions of dollars plus points on the back end. But that's how you make your money with the big blockbuster films. On these smaller independent films, still, you can, but there's not as much money to be made. Like Netflix may pay $2-3 million for a project and say, go make this movie. So we're not talking hundreds of millions of dollars from Netflix. We're talking a couple million, depending on the project, could be more. But they're...
And how much does it take to produce? So if somebody sells some kind of a film, documentary, whatever it might be, what's it as the cost to produce? Let's say you sell it for $2 or $3 million.
Yeah.
Are those costing $500,000 to produce?
It depends.
Or $2 million to produce.
It all depends who's involved. Right now, I'm working on a sports docuseries.
Yes.
And we are doing it for almost nothing because we're putting our, blood, sweat, and tears into it and paying for it out of our own pocket.
Yeah.
Now, we could fund that and probably would cost around $250,000, and we could find an investor or a funder, but then we have to pay them back, and what we're trying to do is cover as much as we can for as little as possible out of our own pocket or just sweat equity into it, rather than going the route of getting an investor right now. So what we're doing is we're creating a sample, which is about a 10, 20-minute short film.
Well, that's pretty long. I thought it would be shorter than that.
Yeah, so that's a trailer. Like a movie trailer would be like 2 to 3 minutes long. Okay. But these samples are a little bit longer. So that's what you would take to a production company that's got the connections with Netflix or any of the other streaming platforms, and they say, hey, we have this 10-minute sample piece. Do you like this? Could you see this on Netflix? Yeah, we can see that. We'll give you $2 million for it. So maybe we just paid $250,000, but we just made $2 million on it. So that's the profit you make. But then
So then you would go out, so they would say, we'll pay $2 million for that. And then you go produce the 90-minute.
Correct. Then you start shooting the series or, whatever it is, or the full documentary. So they're giving you the money because they believe that it would do well on their platform.
Yeah.
But guess who's making all the money?
Right.
Netflix.
Yeah.
And not you. So
and that's the way it works. It's like non-negotiable.
Correct. The only way you can get around that is if you fund it independently. You're paying for everything and you bring them this product and you say, here you go. We've got 10 episodes. How much will you pay me for it?
Right.
Now you're making money. But that's the hardest thing in the world to do, is to find an investor that's going to say, I will help you fund this independently so we don't have to go to the production companies or Netflix.
So in like the, I'll just call it the innovation world, but this is actually probably true for all businesses, basically any business to make it past 5 years, it's a 92%, it's over 90% failure rate. In film, like you see, is it similar numbers, or is it 50-50, or is it 90%?
I think it's less, much less than that. Now you hear all the big names, like the Steven Spielbergs. He's still here.
Right.
He's always going to make a lot of money, and he's always going to make great films because he is who he is, and he's amazing. I think because of the quick turnaround and the streaming platforms and everybody's just making something, you're not going to get the names that stick that we will see for 10, 20, 30 years from now. You're going to get the one and done, or they had their 15 minutes of fame. Very rarely do you see the same people making the same films. You have a handful of them, and they're out there for sure. But these new up-and-comers, it's like they're just throwing things out there, making them. If it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, because I truly feel like we lost the creativity and the heart and the soul and the passion. Everybody is just in this race to make content as fast as they can, and they're repurposing it. Original content really doesn't exist anymore, in my opinion. You have AI that's writing scripts for you, and it does. I tested it out, and I said, let me see what AI can do. And honestly, it can write a good script. I don't use it because I feel personally that would be cheating, and I can come up with original stories, original content, and I would feel weird if I had AI write it for me. But you have people all day long that are writing books, series, movies, and they're done in a couple of days, and they're out there making money off of it. So I'm not saying it's wrong, because it's a whole new world that we're living in, and AI is taking over. I mean, you have actors that are AI generated, and it's really bizarre.
That's interesting too.
Mm-hmm. And voiceovers. So there was a time where you would go on an audition, and they would record your voice. They would record you, and until we had a huge issue. And we went on strike because of this very thing. They were trying to take all of our identity. So the way that you look, the way that you talk, and you would show up and they'd say your name, and, we're going to record you. They could use that forever, anywhere they wanted to. Wow. So then, SAG had to step in and say, hey, we need to do something about this. So, there was a huge issue with that.
So the folks you get your big name producer folks like Spielberg or whomever, right? But then you have a lot of other great talent out there that are producing things. What we talked about this a little bit, and we're going to go deeper into this in the coming days and weeks. But how do most people, from when you talk to others in the industry, how do they go raise capital? Like what are the methodologies they use, or the types of people that they try to tap? Right.
First of all, friends and family. If they're doing a project like a documentary project, and they're trying to raise maybe $50,000 or $100,000, you start with your friends, your family, people you know. There's grants that you can get. Sometimes that works, but that takes a lot. You need a grant writer, and you need to find the right fit for it. They're really...
Who are those grants through typically? Like foundations or government, like state or federal?
Both.
Or
a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it just depends. I mean, there's different grants for, if you're doing a certain type of a movie, maybe it's educational, maybe the content of it fits under a certain category.
Indiana just passed some tax credits, right?
Yeah. Yep, starting in January. So
this past or the coming?
This coming January. I believe you get a 30% tax credit, which is great. I mean, we've never had that in Indiana before. So I'm hoping that more people will film in Indiana. It boosts the economy. So it's really great for us. It's exciting.
Yeah. And do you remember how much it is? Is it 3, 5, 10?
So I believe they said there's a minimum of 250 or 350,000, and I believe there is a cap on it.
Gotcha.
And I need to do a little more research on what the cap is. So
that's exciting, because back in the day, Georgia was big into that, right? But I think not so much anymore. Maybe. A friend of mine in the business said a lot is going overseas right now because you can keep the costs down, and the tax incentives are really great over there. So we're actually losing a lot of work, and people are struggling everywhere from what I'm hearing and the friends that I have in the industry, whether it's crew, whether it's actors. We're seeing everything slow down a little bit. So then, I mean, that could substantially shift LA.
Oh, yeah. LA is struggling. They're not the same. That's why they just got new tax incentives, trying to boost the economy there and get people to keep filming in LA. But so many people have gone for many reasons. I know so many that have just left LA and said, I'm done here. So
what you mentioned a sports project you're working on earlier.
Yeah.
What projects? Let's talk about what projects you're working on now. Where are you in the process?
Yeah. So that one, can't tell you much about it. It's kind of top secret, but we are working with a production company that is very well known in the sports world. And the content is something new that I don't think anyone has seen yet. I can't tell you too much about it.
Totally
all I
get
can
it.
say
It's all
is
good.
it's sports related,
Yeah.
and it's coming soon.
That's
so
awesome.
we're working on that. I also
Is that a film, a documentary?
so this would be a docu-series. So it's
Docu-series,
an
okay.
ongoing series.
Okay.
Yep.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear
I'll
more
tell you
that.
about it later, but
Yeah.
maybe I can't share too much right
I
now.
totally understand. It's all good.
Then I'm doing another one called Justice for Jayco Cats. And this is about animal cruelty. And it happened in our own backyard. There was a big RV company called Jayco, and 3 of their employees, they took 2 live cats that they said were a nuisance and put them in a trash compactor alive and crushed them to death, which is a felony. And long story short, I got together with quite a few different animal rights groups, and we just had to say something and do something, and it was tragic. And it's interesting that the prosecuting attorney's office overturned it, and there's a little bit of corruption there. I'll just leave it at that. So we're looking into that, and some things are just not adding up. And so we have a lot of people behind that project right now, and we're going to do a documentary film on that. So kind of a downer, but for anybody that, loves animals, we're fighting for them, and somebody needs to. You got to be a voice for the voiceless.
What's next on the horizon after that?
So I have been writing screenplays. A lot of them are sports related. There's one called Fisher. It's about a college in New York, Rochester, New York, called St. John Fisher College, and it's their 1981 football season. So, and it's based on a true story. So I have that screenplay that we're pitching and trying to get made. And what else? There's so many projects I have right now that are ready to roll. But again, it's just finding the funding.
Yeah, this is what the parallels between like the world that we live in and the world you're living in. The parallels are, it's like the same, right? Because you have this idea, you come up with, there might be different types of presentations you do, right? But then you go pitch that, right? It's much like any entrepreneur in the AI world. They have an idea and they put something together, they build it, and they go start.
Yeah, we have to put our pitch decks together. So it's like, here's what it's about, here's the characters, this is the budget, this is what we want to do. So yours is probably similar to that, presentations and
So do you think that this is, I guess, a scary thought? Like, I mean, what you were talking about earlier on, like the NIL version for actors, right? So, I mean, somebody could literally produce entire movies without any humans.
Oh, they're doing it.
Is that happening already?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know the difference.
You wouldn't know the difference. Nobody cares who makes it. Nobody knows who's behind the scenes, but they really are writing a lot of series and screenplays. I mean, it's mind-blowing. I mean, I know someone right now who rewrote a script, and she said, "Oh, look at what I wrote in a couple days." I said, "You did not write that in a couple days." So you have the liars out there that claim they wrote this, and they're taking credit for it, and it's awful because they just had AI do it for them. It's not their words. It doesn't even sound like them, and they're trying to pawn it off as their work.
Right.
So I feel like that's awful when somebody just straight up lies and says, "Look what I wrote." No, you didn't.
So how does that get received in the industry? Is there
doesn't matter. If it's good and it makes money, they don't care where it comes from. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So
fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think I just think the creative economy, the work that you do, is so fascinating, and like the arts are so critical. We heard Chris Ye this morning, our kickoff keynote, and a lot of the references he gave, the analogies he gave, were film, right?
Yeah.
And he's raising an AI fund, and pretty much every analogy he gave, he was referencing a movie.
He did.
And some famous
Ricky
quote,
Bobby.
Ricky Bobby. You're not first, you're last.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just fascinating because it goes back to storytelling. right? And that's how we relate to each other. We evoke emotion, storytelling, and it's that is such a foundational, key component of humanity, of our connection with each other.
It's been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that I could describe myself as, I would say I'm a storyteller. And that could mean so many different things. But at the end of the day, that's truly what I want to do. I want to tell really good stories that impact the world, that change the world. I go back to when I was younger. I want to make a difference. The projects I do have to make a difference. They have to bring more light into the world, love into the world, education, understanding. So to me, the greatest honor is to be able to tell a good story and do it really well.
So there are different types of storytelling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we actually talked about this on another podcast earlier today. I'm curious what your thoughts are around, is it called the hero's journey or something? The storytelling process?
Yeah. I mean, there's your hero. That's your...
Right. And so, when you think about storytelling, has your, how you approach storytelling, has it changed over the years? Or is it still the mechanics of...
Yeah, the mechanics are still the same. It's like you have a really great story that you want to tell. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end to it. And there's, something that you learn from it, something that you grow, or it entertains you. It makes you laugh, or it makes you scared, or it makes you feel love. And those are the really good stories that, when you see a good movie or you see a good TV show, the art of storytelling or screenwriting, I really think, the storyteller, the writer, you can't do anything without the story.
Right.
I mean, what movie are you making? And books that we write. I mean, everything is based around good storytelling. It's just hard to find people who tell good stories. Human beings, not AI, because AI writes some really good stories, I got to admit. But,
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming to the end of this podcast. I find all this so fascinating. Can I ask you a couple rapid fire questions?
Yes.
So this is a couple words, a couple sentences, whatever, or a couple hours, whatever floats your boat. We'll just run through these.
Okay.
And there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
I'm always just fast. I always learn something in all these. But what's one thing in your industry that you think people should stop doing?
I should say using AI. That would be great because it ruined us all. So, yeah, right off the top.
Right. What's a process or a habit that you think leads to the best ability for someone to disrupt themselves?
What's the worst habit?
So what is a habit I would break? Or a trait that I would have to try to disrupt myself?
Yeah. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. You are who you are. You do what you do. You say what you say. When you start to compare yourself with others, that's when everything goes wrong.
I love that. If you could solve one problem in the world, anything at all, wave a magic wand with innovation, what would it be?
How to stop hating each other.
Oh, that's a great one. I love that. That was deep.
That was deep.
I love that one.
That's truly what I would do. There's just too much hate in the world.
As they said on SNL, simmer down. Well, this has been absolutely awesome. Lisa, how do people find you?
So I'm on all social medias. I'm on LinkedIn, which is where, you and I met. And most of my socials are the Lisa Varga. I'm on X, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. You can go to lisavarga.com.
Okay. So for those folks out here listening that want to invest in Lisa's future and in the work that she's doing, reach out to Lisa Varga. And she's working on some wonderful projects. Anything we didn't cover today that you want to share?
No, I just think, if there is an investor and they have an idea of a story or something that they're passionate about that they would like to get made, come to me and we will find a way to make it. You bring the money and I'll do the rest.
There you go. That pretty much sums it up right there. I love it. Lisa, thank you for coming to Rally. Thank you for joining us on Innovate or Evaporate. It's great to meet you in person. Great to meet you. And by the way, can I just say, Rally is amazing. I have had the time of my life. I will be back again every year that you do it. It's been incredible. So thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Until next time, we'll see you soon on Innovate or Evaporate.
This episode was brought to you by Rally. the Global Cross-Sector Innovation Conference. Learn more at rallyinnovation.com.